Hi guys, this is Santiago Roy from Branch Off Games, and today I'm going to show you how to get started with the Procedural World Builder asset. First, let's create a new game object in the hierarchy by selecting Create, Create Empty. Next, we're going to rename this game object Procedural World Builder. While inspecting the game object, we're going to select Add Component and begin typing Procedural World Builder. Select the mono behavior and add it to your game object. From here, this object allows you to build templated worlds at runtime or in the editor. Next, we're going to create a template. To do this, we're going to use the template creator window. I like to drag this over here so I can work simultaneously. So from here, we can create our world templates. So let's create a new template, and you can see that one was created in the assets hierarchy. So we're going to give this template a name. We're going to call this tutorial template and save the name. You can see that it renamed your asset within the project database. So we're going to create a new ground texture. So we're going to go down here, type in autumn grass. We're going to scroll down and select the autumn grass. Next, we're going to give it a normal map. So type autumn again, and this will filter your results. We're going to go down to the normal map, add in the normal map, leave the other settings the same except for the tile size. We're going to give it a tile size of 3 to give it a little more cartoony of a feel. Next, we're going to add a second ground texture. With this ground texture, we're going to add autumn leaves. So these leaves will show up intermittently. So let's go and find the normal map now. Select the normal map. Next, we're going to increase the tile size again. This will stay consistent throughout the template. So let's go and add a cliff texture. This is going to show up at the angled walls. So we'll add a normal map. Once again, let's keep the tile size consistent at 3. We can turn the pathway on or off with this option. We're going to leave it on. So let's go and find a pathway texture to add to our template. So we're going to use the autumn cobble. Now let's go find that corresponding normal map. And once again, we're going to keep the tile size consistent at 3. And now we have our cliff and pathway set up. So let's add some trees. So we're going to go in and we're going to find our tree game objects. So scroll down and look for the autumn trees. You can tell by the path right there. So let's add a secondary tree. And you can see our second autumn tree. So next we're going to add environment details. Let's bump up the tree density a little bit so more trees spawn. So next we're going to add in the details that will populate our environment. And let's bump them up a little bit. So the first one we're going to add is our waving grass billboards. So go and find our autumn grass billboard. And we're going to just modify the min width to, let's say 0.5. And we'll set the max width to 1.5. The noise spread, this is how many pieces of grass will spawn within one unit area. So we'll say 30 to make it nice and plush. And then leave the bend factor the same, relative probability. So we'll say for every, we want 100 instances of grass compared to the other ones. You'll see this in a second. So next we're going to go in and we are going to look for our next grass texture. Apologies, there's only one grass texture, so let's go check out what prefabs we have provided for you to generate some mesh prefabs. So right now we're going to, let's just check one more time. Are there any extra textures that we can use? And oh yes, there is. So let's use these flowers. Once again, let's give them min width, min height, and max height. And then the noise spread. Let's say 50, 35. That's good. So the relative probability, and we'll say 75% chance of these being spawned. So next we're going to add some meshes. So these are just your standard game objects. So let's go in here and let's grab the log. So we're going to place the log within the world template, and we'll just scale it down a little bit to better fit within the scene. And this gives some nice variations because these min and max widths and heights are generated randomly. So not all logs will end up looking the same. Let's increase the relative probability. So we'll say that, these have about a 15% chance relative to the rest of our game objects or environment details. So let's go in and add a couple more detail meshes. The process is relatively straightforward once you've done one. Once again, let's go ahead and adjust our min and max widths and heights. And let's say that 4 mushrooms will spawn within 1 unit square. And these are a little more rare at 10 with their relative probability. And lastly, maybe we'll add one more after this. So we're just going to keep adding in environment details, and let's add some rocks to spawn within our scene. Make sure you click that detail mesh so you can spawn a mesh instead of a billboarded texture. And we'll just grab one rock and see how it looks in our scene. Alrighty. So let's add one more. Let's go ahead and add our stump game object. And we're going to give it a min max width of 0.5 and 1, same for the height, and a little bit, let's make these a little bit more rare. We don't want a bunch of stumps, dead trees lying around within our generated world. So next we're going to look at some of the properties. We're not going to use a random seed this time, so let's go ahead and enter in a seed to use. We're just going to type Procedural World Builder for our seed. The random fill percentage is how filled in your map will be. Map smoothing adjusts the passes over the map to give it a smoother look. Map padding will pad the outsides of the terrain so that you can see further. More trees being generated. So let's just adjust the width, the height, and the resolution. The resolution is 2 to the n plus 1, so 256 plus 1 is generally a 1-to-1 mapping for the resolution and the height and the width. And we'll leave everything else the same, barring the passage width. Let's make that 10 so we have nice wide passageways for us to walk through. Alright, so we've successfully created our first world template. We're going to go back to the Procedural World Builder game object in our scene, and let's select it and inspect it, and just drag and drop that template we've generated onto the inspector window. So great. So we've added that. So let's build our first world. Be patient. This can take a little bit of time. Okay, great. So we've successfully built our first world. So let's just navigate back a little bit so we can see what's been generated for us. Fantastic. So as you can see here, this just generates a Unity terrain object for you, populates it within your world. And we can see all the flowers and all of the template objects that we defined earlier, and it will generate a unique world depending on your seed every time. So let's go ahead and import the standard assets into this project so we can leverage the first-person controller to walk around our world. So just go ahead and import this. Next, we're going to just go ahead and drag the FPS scene, and let's hit play. 1 second, let's maximize on play and restart the scene. Awesome. So let's just take a little walk around. Thanks for watching our Getting Started with Procedural World Builder tutorial. If you've enjoyed this, hit subscribe on our channel, And stay tuned for upcoming Unity tutorials as well as more instructions for the procedural world builder. Thanks, guys.